everyone, and welcome back to the RMTV Women's Podcast. I am here today with Emma Sanders. Lauren is a lucky girl. She managed to jet away this week, and we are sat here still in the UK.
Yeah.
But yes, Emma is here. Thanks for coming on today. How are you? That's the important.
I'm alright, a bit tired today. We were just saying, a bit tired, but it's meant to be my day off, and I've had a busy one, so a bit tired.
Do you ever?
I'm very jealous of Lauren.
Do you ever really have a day off? That's the question.
No, I'm meant to have I think it's 4 days off next week before the Premier League starts, and I'm just like, it's not going to happen. But I'm buzzing, and I'm like, I don't know. I might go and see the family.
Woo!
I might go and do something. I've got so many ideas, but yeah,
amazing.
It's just not going to happen.
Anyways, we are finally in the week. It's match week. Today is match day. Can you believe it? I can't believe how quickly it's come around. We started the countdown on day 27, and now it's day 5, which is just ridiculous. Life's just going so quickly at the moment. But before we get into that, some exciting news broke this week. You'll know more about it than I do because you just know more than me. Literally. So Liverpool have announced that Susan Black, who is already the club's director of communications, has been appointed the executive director of Liverpool FC Women, which is quite exciting. It means, excuse me, my voice almost went then. Well, obviously congratulations to her, and I think it's going to be interesting. What obviously you know more about it. What do you think, change-wise? I'm putting you on the spot here. in terms of going forward, how do you think this is going to affect Liverpool and the sort of structure that they're building of the women's team?
Well, she's highly regarded in the club. I know that a lot of people have spoken highly of her, and I think Vicky in particular is very excited to have her on board. And I just think the women's side in general are very pleased to have another female who's obviously got an influence high up at the club come across, and like you say, she's been working in communications anyway, so she's been working in things like marketing and stuff like that anyway, so she's kind of already tried to have a bit of influence on that side of things, and then she's coming now and she'll be playing obviously a prominent role in the women's side. So just the fact that they do have an executive director whose sole focus now is purely on the women's team is obviously a big positive for the women's side. She spoke quite well, I thought, in the quotes that were on the website, where she said, she wanted to build upon the foundations that, I've spoken about this before on this podcast, but they've been building that kind of over the last year in particular. Obviously alongside Adam Grease-Smith as well, the general manager at the women's side. So they've been working really, really hard over recent months to, put the foundations in place to provide the platform that the women's team needs in order to succeed. And obviously there's been loads of chat about the investment, etc., so there's no point in going into all that, but they know that they need to improve, and like I said, they've kind of been doing that, and she's now coming in and she wants to build upon that and essentially take the reins on it and kind of take it to the next level, and like I say, just provide that clear focus on the women's side, which they've been lacking. So I think it's really good. On paper it looks like a brilliant appointment. So I've not met her personally, so couldn't tell you anything about her personality and how she might look to kind of run things in that sense of stuff, but certainly on paper it's exciting.
It is. I'm sure obviously as time sort of goes on, we'll understand her sort of her role and her sort of way of implementing things as time progresses. But I think the main thing is having that voice in the high up areas of the club that is solidly. I don't know. That's the one.
Solemnly.
Who's tunnel vision, let's say, on the women's team. I think it's really important, and I know a lot of fans have been unhappy, especially with the whole aspect of relegation in terms of pointing a finger at the investment side of things. But I just think it will mean so much going forward, the fact that you have that voice in the discussions that mean the most. especially when it
Yeah.
comes to building forward. And yeah, she spoke about it's altering the framework, isn't it? It's creating something that's a winner. I think when you look at all the other teams like City, Arsenal, Chelsea that have all over the last few years really pushed on, they've got a really solid framework, and I think that's what Liverpool have now really looked at and gone, look, we need that as well. So they've obviously looked to Susan Black and been like, she's a person that's going to be able to sort of sort all that out for us. And I mean, hopefully when it comes to it, it'll be successful. But it is exciting, isn't it? Thinking about
and I think the main thing is, like I said, like, I don't know her personally, but from what people say is that she's genuinely passionate about the women's team and about the role that she's taken on. So, like, you know, I've only got kind words and praise for Peter Moore, but you know, essentially he was overseeing the club on a massive scale. So, you know, as much as I'm sure he would have liked to have purely focused on the women's team, like, he just simply didn't really have the capacity for it. So, you know, Susan Black will come in and she will be able to focus on it, and she will be able to put her efforts and her passion into that direction, and that's, you know, like I say, that's what the women's team has been needing. So, woo, happy days.
Yeah, it's nice to know that it's looking at as being an important. I know Mike Gordon, who's the Fenway director, I think is his official position. A quote here is, LFC women are an exceptionally important team within the football club, alongside the first team and our young academy team. So that just sort of, that's what we want to hear. That's what, as fans, you want to hear, especially even just general fans of the women's game, knowing that it's not like this anymore. It's like this, and that's how it should be. They're all on like an equal playing field.
Yeah, well, I know Mike Gordon has been among a group of other people. Obviously, Peter Moore was one of them over the kind of the course of the last year, certainly the last 6 months, that have kind of been in discussions about certain things around the women's team. Obviously, I announced in a story online recently that a part of those discussions were to obviously try and include the women's team in the facilities at Kirkby. That's just an example of one of the things that I know that they've been discussing. So he's certainly going to be playing a role alongside Susan, and obviously Vicky Jackson will have a key role in that as well. So
yeah, for sure. Well, it is all very exciting. Another links perfectly. Another exciting story not really story, but event news. LFC women signed. I'm so sorry if I butcher this name. I think it's pronounced Michaela Moore. I would say that is. We're going to go with that. From Duisburg, centre back, quite young centre back, but experienced at the same time. Obviously, a New Zealand international. I think this is probably a needed addition to the squad. Obviously, with Sophie Bradley Auckland being away, looking after her care home and putting those people first, which is completely understandable, and I think rightly praised, because what she's doing is incredible. But hopefully we can see her back soon. But this sort of seems like a needed signing going into this new season, to not be sort of left empty at the back.
It's really good. I mean, I'm going to go with Michaela, like what you did. I'm just going to follow suit. But yeah, we need Emma Humphreys to come on and give her New Zealand take on it, I think. But I know that he was a player actually that I think Vicky wanted to bring in as the first signing of the summer. So she's been chasing her for a while. There was delays for one reason or another around things like admin, visa delays, etc. The general politics around signing players. So I think they, at one point Liverpool thought, we're just not going to be able to get her, and then for one reason or another they managed to eventually get the signing over the line, and obviously that transfer's now come through, which is excellent. Vicky's really happy about it. Obviously Michaela's really happy about it because obviously it was a move that she wanted to make, but yeah, she's young, she's got high potential. I think that's the thing which we've seen kind of in the quotes and stuff online, is that she's someone that Liverpool are going to kind of look to develop, and I think it's a little project there. And obviously Vicky's worked with a lot of young people before, and I think that's kind of one of her key strengths, is sort of developing players who have got that potential and trying to unlock it. And obviously, she's quite like a man manager, or person manager, as you might say in women's football. So she'll try and use that coaching strength that she's got with Michaela. But yeah, certainly I think she's probably more of a squad addition. I don't think you can expect to see her play too many games from from the starting lineup. Maybe a couple of cup matches and stuff, but she is, I think, there to add some competition to the squad. Like you say, a bit of cover for Sophie, who I don't think we'll expect to see until January, but I do think she will be coming back in January. I think that is the plan. So obviously Michaela, like I say, can just provide a bit of coverage there. Cover there at the back. For those, for those defenders who are going to obviously have to fill in for Sophie while she's away.
Yeah, I think the thing with our squad, I think we've always known it for quite a while now. It's quite a small squad, so when one player leaves, you do sort of see that gap sort of gaping open a little bit. Yeah. So I think, as you said, it is just cover. I think we have a squad that's quite versatile, so a lot of different players can play in a lot of different positions. So I don't think we'd ever be left short. But equally now we sort of need to look at the fact that we need to play players in their best position. And I know obviously at times you are going to have to shuffle things around, but you've brought in a player there who solemnly likes to play as a centre back. Obviously probably can play either side as a wing back as well. But I think you're right in the fact that we don't want to be left short, especially when the season's so vital. If a centre back gets injured, you've got one then that can come in and do the job perfectly well for it.
Yeah, exactly, and I think if you look back at Taylor Hines, who Vicky's obviously brought in this summer as well, she's also versatile. Like she can play on either side, and I know she was she's been playing at left back predominantly. Obviously, like we've got Roby in there as well, but also like Ash Hodson, she can play on either side. And she was playing at right back in the friendly against Man United because Becky Jane was unavailable through injury. So. So there's definitely versatility across that back line, and Taylor will slot in there as cover, like you say, and just freshening things up and adding a bit of competition in training as well is always a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully we'll get to. It's so exciting! I can't wait to see the new signings, like actually in like a new game, because obviously we hear from you in particular about the results from pre-season and potentially who's played, who scored. Obviously you don't ever know how many minutes they're playing, etc. You sort of form the formation in your own head a little bit as to what you think's gone on, but actually the thought of them all like coming together, I'm so excited, I cannot wait. In other news then, literally dropped like an hour before we filmed, so I'm glad that it did, otherwise it would have messed up the whole video. Conti Cup fixtures finally got announced. We are in Group C. Now, bear with me on this one.
Easy group.
Yeah. So in our group, we do have the likes of Manchester United, Manchester City, and Everton. So it's a bit of a northwest battle, is what I called it in the tweet that I did. But obviously that's our group. But in terms of looking at the other ones, there are some pretty intense other groups. Obviously, Group B, you've got Chelsea, Spurs, Arsenal, London City Lionesses. Like that's going to be a very, very interesting group to keep an eye on, and like us as well. Initial thoughts then. What were you thinking when you saw that news drop?
I was happy, to be honest. Like I'll be honest, I've got to be careful here because I don't want to disrespect the FA or the competition, but personally, like for me, the Conti Cup I see as more of a competition where you can maybe give some of the squad players a bit more rotation and give the youth players some experience. So to come up against, good squads, not just good teams, but good squads like Manchester City and Man United and Everton, who all have strengthened this summer. We know the players that Man City have brought in, the likes of Rose Lavelle, Sam Ewers, who are World Cup winners. I just think that's brilliant that players from Liverpool, and like I say, particularly young players, I'd like to hope to see on that pitch, will have the chance potentially to come up against stars like this. And like I say, even the young players that you've got at City and United and Everton, like they are very, very good players, and it'll be a test for Liverpool. Liverpool obviously played Man United in the pre-season friendly on the weekend. They drew 0-0, played really well. I think that's a really good result considering obviously United finished 4th in the league last season, and they you know, they're looking to break into that top 3 alongside Everton. So that was a really good result a week before the season starts. Promising signs there. So they've showed that they can compete. They showed last season that they could compete. They just kept bloody losing 1-0 in every game against the big teams. But, you know, obviously the game at Anfield against Everton, Liverpool were the better team, in my eyes.
I think majority would agree with you on that.
Yeah, I think so. And I think Willie Kirk kind of didn't outright say that post-match, but he kind of suggested that, really, didn't he? He said that Everton had to kind of work hard and wait for that chance. So I thought their game plan was good from an Everton point of view, but again, that showed that Liverpool can compete. So it's not like we're in this group and you know, we'll be the kind of the token bottom team in that. I think that's disrespectful really to our players, because I think they've shown that they can compete. Hopefully in the league this season, if they get off to a good start and results start going their way, there'll be a bit more confidence. So when the Conti Cup does come around, it's a nice, I think, like I said, I don't want to disrespect the competition, but I think it's a nice kind of turn away from focus, in the sense that there's going to be a lot of pressure on Liverpool to perform in every league game this season. So to break that up with these Conti Cup games, where they'll perhaps go into these games obviously not expecting to win those games, just eases the pressure a little bit on the squad as a whole. And like I said, it gives those young players an opportunity to really test themselves. So I like it. I think it's good. I'm excited.
Yeah, I agree. I think initially I was like, oh, okay, that's a bit tough. But the more you think about it, the more you think, to be the best, you want to play against the best, and to be better as a player, you want to test yourself. And who better to test yourself than the likes of those teams at the moment? You mentioned them earlier. I think the elephant in the room would be the 2 new USA signings to look out for. And I think, as from a fan's perspective as well, I want to go to a game and see these kind of players. I obviously want to see the Liverpool girls do incredible and see them week in, week out. But then equally, like the amount of times last season when Sam Kerr signed, that me and Lauren were like, we're going to London, we're going to watch Sam Kerr. Like, there's such excitement around it. And if those games, even Everton as well, like Hayley Rasso's a big name there, Izzy Christiansen, the likes of those who I've not seen play before. It's like an incentive.
Barry Gouvan as well, the French striker.
Exactly.
I mean, she's going to be good.
Incredible. So, yeah, the point is, like, it's not going to be easy, that's for sure. But I agree with what you said. Like, it's probably a little bit of weight of just a little bit of like, okay, yeah, the league's going to be really intense, but it's like a breath of fresh air to have a different. It's almost going to be a different style of game, isn't it? Really, like, it's completely different teams to ones that are in the Championship, a lot more established. No disrespect for those teams, but it's just naturally what the cause is. So it's exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
It's a good point you mentioned there, actually, about them being different teams, because obviously with Liverpool going into the majority of the Championship games probably as favourites, I think we can expect to see a lot of teams maybe sitting back and playing like a bit of a low block and stuff, and obviously trying to catch up on the breaks. So coming up against teams like Everton, United and City, who will obviously want to be on the ball, that obviously gives our attacking players a bit more freedom to sort of go out there and express themselves. And the only thing I would say, not to put a downer on it all, but obviously the fact that there are no fans at the moment, we're hoping October, that's kind of the month that we're looking at in terms of potentially seeing some fans back in it women's games. But certainly from a kind of a marketing point of view as well, obviously the Anfield occasion last season went down so well that I think initial plans before coronavirus hit was Liverpool were eyeing up at least one women's game at Anfield this season, and that's probably not going to be the case now, no matter what happens. Obviously that Everton Conti Cup game would have been kind of a good opportunity to do that,
and vice versa as well.
Any of those games, but obviously that they would have been up there, and that's not to rule that out completely, but as far as I'm aware, those discussions won't be taking place anytime soon. Obviously Everton might be having the same discussions about Goodison. United have made it quite clear that they're not really thinking about Old Trafford at the moment, but City might be looking at the Etihad. But it's just a shame if there's no fans. You've got a Manchester derby here, you've got a Merseyside derby, you've obviously got the Liverpool United derby. which obviously fans could potentially miss out on. So that's the only downer, really.
Yeah. Let's just hope the broadcasting side of it's good. So you get to see these games online, whether that's on the FA app or whether that's on BBC or BT. I know the coverage is for the start of the season in the leagues really, really good. Like, absolute credit to the channels that have put that together to do.
And on that, like, don't DM me because I have no influence on what games on BBC, because I've already had people message me saying, can you show this game on BBC? And I can't.
Imagine you there with your live streaming phone. Oh, look, I'm streaming.
Doing a Facebook Live with Amy.
Oh my God,
on BBC Two.
That would be incredible. But yeah, I'm hoping at least some of them we'll get to see, and hopefully the clubs will provide enough information for fans to follow on throughout, which they have done previously. So I don't see that as being an issue.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving on, there were 2 games that were quite high profile that have happened over the last 4 days, 5 days, something like that. We'll start off. We'll go in chronological order, I think. We'll start off with Chelsea Man City in the Community Shield. Is that what it's called? Community Shield. Is that what it's called? Of course, it's what it's called. Yeah. You went to
Community 50p.
Yeah. Oh my! It does, doesn't it?
50p.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I watched it from home. Obviously, you were in the stadium. I bet that was a bit strange in itself. I watched it from home. Absolute worldie from Millie Bright. I just was not expecting it. I didn't know she had that in her locker. I genuinely didn't. But that was absolutely phenomenal.
So I said this in the post-match press conference. I asked Emma Hayes, and the way I worded the question was something along the lines of, I don't think anyone was expecting that from Millie Bright. And Emma Hayes, being Emma Hayes, turned around and went, well, I wasn't expecting it. I was like, okay. So I just got back in my box. And then she was saying, we see her do that in training all the time. We know that she's got the technique and she can hit it from long range. But I still stand by the fact that nobody was expecting that, apart from Emma Hayes maybe. But yeah, it was a worldie. When it went in, I was, like you said, I was at Wembley, which was, that was really cool. Just to be back in a football stadium again was amazing. But, very privileged for that. But I was sat directly in front of Vicky Sparks and Rachel Brown-Finnis, who were doing radio commentary on 5 Live for us. And I know that Rachel Brown-Finnis sort of was just like, whoa, and like had to take her mic off and stand up because she was like, what? It just came out of nowhere. And obviously Vicky on the commentary was like, it's a nice building, but I'll admit, working on my the initial goal, because I was like, I looked up like as it flew into the net, so I didn't know who had hit it first. So I just like sort of looked up and then was like, oh, okay, there's been a very, very good goal here. And then all the players were running over to Millie Bright. She was laughing because I don't think she could believe that she had done it. So I then had to watch the replay of it on my little screen because I'd missed most of the goal. So that was fun. It was amazing. And to be honest, I don't think there was anyone more relieved in the stadium than Sam Kerr when that goal went in.
Yeah, well, I was going to come on to that. Sam Kerr had a mare. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Do you think? I mean, she could have had like 3. It's just
at least.
It was almost like Sam Kerr was at her best in terms of positioning, running in behind, absolute right place, right time. But it was just a finishing she just couldn't get a hold of. I don't know whether it was just a bit of I don't know, brushing off the cobwebs. Obviously, then they've not played football for a heck of a long time in a competitive environment. Anyways, obviously they've had friendlies, etc. Or it could have just been a case of some Wembley nerves. I know women don't play in such an iconic stadium that often, so maybe when that comes around, it affects the players in that way. And to me, that's what we know. She can put away those goals any other day of the week. It just seems to be on that day, on that occasion, she just couldn't get it right.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a post-match piece afterwards, and I described it as a Wembley nightmare, which was what a couple of people had said on commentary and punditry and stuff. But again, so I only asked 2 questions in the presser afterwards. One was about Millie Bright's goal, and the next one was obviously about Sam Kerr. And I asked Emma whether she thought it was down to lack of confidence or, like you say, nervousness on the day. And again, Emma turned around and said, like, you know, it's not confidence at all. I thought she was brilliant. She said what you'd expect her to say. She wasn't going to turn around and say, oh yeah, she had a bad day. But we all know that she did. Like you say, she's one of the best goal scorers in the world. But the problem is that she's come to England, obviously, with all this expectation, all this pressure, and it's just not clicked for her. I know what you were saying in the sense that, you know, any other day you'd expect to put away those chances, but she's not really done that since she's kind of played since January. So I think she's made 7 appearances now, including the game on Saturday for Chelsea. Scored 1 goal, and that was, I think it was against Arsenal, wasn't it, in the 4-1 win. So it's been, it's not been the kind of move to England that I think everyone was expecting that she'd have in terms of like her impact. But like you say, I think the weird thing is that she did look sharp, but I don't think it was rustiness, because that, you know, her movement, like you said, was brilliant, and she was sharp. It was just, I think she's well aware that everyone, you know, they're expecting her to hit big numbers. There's obviously a lot of pressure on her, and like I said, Emma Hayes won't ever say, oh, she's low on confidence, but in my opinion, that I think that's probably maybe a factor, is that she's just, you know, trying to settle into England, dealing with the expectation, the pressure, probably a little bit of nervousness, knows that she's not hit the ground running yet. And I think once she has like an impactful game, as in she scores a winning goal, or, you know, she gets a couple of goals in one game, or, you know, she has like back-to-back games where she scores, I think that'll be it. I think she just needs that break. She just needs to sort of loosen up, and she'll be fine. But yeah, she's a great player. That was just a very bad day.
Yeah, I think people underestimate the transition and how different the NWSL is from our league. I think the NWSL is a lot more physical. We're a lot more technical over here, and I think our defenses are built quite well. So yeah, I think people underestimate that, and obviously she's had so much expectation on her shoulders in order to deliver, as you said. It must play in the back of your mind a little bit. Obviously, she's probably the biggest transfer to England for many years, and probably
until maybe Roosevelt
came. Yeah, pretty much. So that's got to be something. But I agree with what you said. I think as soon as she starts to regularly score and builds up that confidence again, I think she'll be absolutely flying. And that moves me on perfectly to the fact that potentially today could have been while we're sat here. I don't know. We don't know. Pernille Harder. Potentially, thank you. Potentially to Chelsea. With that in mind, are Chelsea the team to beat this season? Taking all of the transfers into account from all the different teams, do you think they're the ones with the target on their back with adding all?
It's the one. Squad? Yeah, I mean, they're the squad that everyone else, I think, is kind of looking at. From my point of view, I've already made this shout, but I still think, in terms of the league, I think Manchester City might just sneak it. I mean, it's so tough to call, but I just think that midfield, when they get Sam Lewis, Rose Lavelle, Caroline Weir, and Keira Walsh in particular, those 4. I mean, obviously Jill Scott's in amongst that as well, but those 4 working together in that City midfield, like, that's just an absolute worldie. Like, it's just incredible. Chloe Kelly was stunning on Saturday. She had an amazing game. Gemma Bonner was fantastic in defence as well. But I think they've obviously got a good core there. They've strengthened in midfield, where I think that has taken them up to another level. But look, the Chelsea squad is incredible. It really is. But for me, I think they've made it quite clear, and Emma Hayes has made it quite clear, that they're chasing trophies on several fronts, and they've certainly got the squad to do that. You know, they want to go out and win the Champions League, and I do think they are probably going to be up there. And I think if they're not, kind of in the last 4 teams in the Champions League, then they'll see that as a big disappointment next season. So that's where they want to be. That's where their main focus is. I mean, don't get me wrong, they want to win the WSL, but part of me thinks if they're so desperate to win the Champions League, will City, who, bearing in mind, were top of the table when the season was obviously called off by the FA because of coronavirus, the FA chose to award the title to Chelsea because they had a game in hand, even though they were a point behind. I won't give my thoughts on that. I think I've told you that before. I think City were very annoyed about that, very respectful, but very annoyed. And I think they'll be absolutely full of motivation to go out and win it.
Oh, yeah.
You can tell on the weekend that they were really unhappy because I don't particularly think City put a foot wrong. They just caught Chelsea on a day where they were absolutely firing on all cylinders.
Yeah. So
they would have really wanted to have won that game to put down a marker and say, look, like, we want to get our revenge. We want to win the league. So it's difficult because if Chelsea play like that in every game, then you know, I've got to say that they're favourites. But I'm gonna stick with my initial gut feeling before watching the teams at the Community Shield, and that was that I just think City will nick the WSL, but I think Chelsea will go far in Europe.
Yeah. It's all about how the new signings settle as well, isn't it? I think when watching Sam Mewis on the weekend, she looked a little bit unsure, but I think obviously with time that sort of, she looks a bit like a fish out of water at points, I think.
Yeah, I mean, she'd only had a few training sessions and she played that friendly, but she's only been involved for about a week or so. So
yeah, exactly. And I think with time, it's easy to look at that Chelsea squad now, and be like, yeah, wow, fire. Do you know what I mean? But then you don't know how City are going to settle into it. You don't know how Arsenal are going to perform this season. They've made some strengthening to their squad as well, and they always seem to do quite well.
And they haven't got the Champions League to focus on as well.
Exactly. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I can't call it at the moment. I genuinely can't.
It's so difficult. Yeah. It's going to be I mean, it's going to be between those teams. Like I said, I think Arsenal. You're right. I think Arsenal will certainly challenge them, but for me, I just think it's a bit of a 2-horse race. And this is no disrespect to Arsenal, but I just think the squads that Chelsea and City have got, I think it's going to be between them. But yeah, it is so tough to call. I think we'll know better after you know, probably the end of October, once we've seen the first sort of 5 or 6 games and we've kind of, you know, seen how the new signings might be slotting in terms of like formations, tactics, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But
we will have to see how it all goes. Well, it's going to be difficult because I feel like we're going to be focusing on the Championship, obviously with Liverpool, but then also trying to keep a close eye on WSL as well. It's going to be so interesting. Anyways, final bit then, Lyon. What do we have to say about Lyon? 5th straight.
So good.
5th straight Champions League in a row. 7 altogether. Probably, I mean, the most successful women's team at this point in time, 100%. Yeah. And now that this dominant era of Lyon has reached its 10th season, and you sat here scratching your head, how has a team managed to be so dominant and no one really come anywhere near them? It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it is. And you know, I was just saying to you before that I spoke to Izzy Christensen this morning for a piece that'll be on the website soon, and she obviously was at Lyon for 18 months from 2018 to sort of mid 2019. So I was asking her about Lyon and what makes them so much so special, I guess, compared to other teams in Europe. And you know, she was saying that I think it's just that general, which is what everyone talks about. It's just that general kind of competitiveness and the standard of training, because of the quality of players that are there, is just so good. So everyone has huge respect for each other individually, and as a team, it's just the intensity is always there, the competition's there. They brought in a new sports scientist this summer, just gone. Sort of 2019 summer. Yeah. So I forget that we're at like the end of August. Well, no, we're September now.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so last summer, yeah, and I know that like he's had an impact on the team and just kind of like their fitness levels and stuff. So they just seem to go up another level each year. Like they know all eyes are on them. Like you said, the target is kind of on their back, and I think they just go out and they just strengthen and they ensure that there's that competition every single year for every single position as well. It's not like it's just competition in 4 or 5. It's every single position on that pitch. But they're all heavily involved as well because they're used to playing in competitions where they get to the end. So they're used to playing at the back end of every season. So that they go far and they've won all of the domestic cup competitions. But yeah, and Europe. So yeah. So it's not like players go there and then sit on the bench because they're in every competition right until the end.
Constantly rotating.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. So they get to rotate, they get to play, they get to feel a real part of the squad. They have the competition in training. They're incredible. Lucy Bronze is a legend.
Honestly, the thing that actually is so interesting, like they played that final without Nikita Paris, without Arda Högberg, and still were completely dominant. And I know obviously there's more
Henri as well, the French player.
There's more players that weren't involved, but they were just absolutely just completely dominant. And that just backs up your point of like they've got probably a world-class second choice for every position, which is just crazy to think.
Well, like even the substitutions that they brought on in Sunday's final. So like Shanice van der Sanden came on for who was it? Cascarino, who obviously was phenomenal, especially in that first half.
Quick.
I mean, this is. I mean, we saw Shanice play at Liverpool, but this is a player who is a European champion and plays, international level, and plays in the World Cup final last summer. So that's not a bad substitution to make. And then, and then like you say, and then even with the players missing, obviously they've got is it Mbappé? I can't say her name. The defender, and then obviously you've got just all of these incredible players like Henri, and then obviously Hegerberg and Paris, and it's just like the competition is just insane.
I tell you what, if Chelsea make it far in the Champions League next season, I would absolutely love to see Lyon Chelsea in the semi-finals or even the final. That would be
that's what everyone wants, isn't it?
That's
exactly what everyone wants.
Incredible. It would be. I don't even want to think about it. The amount of the caliber of players that will be playing against each other would just. But I think just thinking
better
about
than a World Cup final.
Exactly. It's just bizarre to even think about it, and it just shows you how far women's football has come. Seeing, especially women's football in England as well.
Yeah,
I think I said this in another podcast. Now England looks like a destination to come. It's so desirable to come over to the WSL and play in this league, and I think now would be great for the English league and the teams in the English league to put a marker down in Europe, so for a sustained period of time, not dip in and out, but almost challenge Lyon each season, regardless of whether it's Arsenal, whether it's City, whether it's Chelsea, to have someone who's completely dominating time after time would be just absolutely phenomenal. And hopefully it comes to that in the end, that England is in Europe constantly. That would be just great.
Well, that's what everyone wants, isn't it? And I think the fact that the WSL, as you said, it's grown so much. I think they're in the best position as a league in Europe to compete with the likes of Lyon and Wolfsburg and the Bayern Munichs and the stuff of women's football, because they've got the professionalism there in the league. They've got the resources now. There is a clear plan from the FA and the clubs of where they want English domestic football to go. But it's about taking that next step and dominating in Europe. So
we will just have to see how it goes. It's all very exciting. It is great to be a women's football fan at the moment. Look, we're returning to the actual league before the men's do, so hopefully that encourages quite a lot of people to tap in. And I know obviously we mentioned that the coverage is quite thick and heavy coming up, so there's not really any excuse not to to sort of get involved and get to know each of the teams. And even in the championship, there's some games going on that people can have a look at. So hopefully we are sat here next week talking about a win. Fingers crossed. There should be a build-up to well, there will be a build-up to Durham coming out on Friday or Saturday. I haven't decided which day yet, but there will be one. Thank you so much, Emma, for coming on. Absolute saving grace when one of us is unavailable.
All right.
You
can buy me rum and coke.
You're a super sub.
I mean, I'll take that. That's fine.
Technically,
I don't mind being a
third. You should just be a third member at this point.
Yeah.
Anyways,
a founding member of RMTV.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyways, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you can be aware of when we post our next video. So
and when I'm next coming on.
Exactly. When it was next year. You need to know. Anyways, yes, thanks for watching, and we'll be back soon with another video.
Woo!